Good morning, friends. I decided to record in the morning, all nice and fresh. So I've been thinking for the last couple of days. I just realized how quick this YouTube cycle is. If you really want to upload every week, that is like, yeah, it's pretty much as soon as you've finished the first video, you already start to think about the next one. And this channel was designed foolproof, so that I never have to stress and I never have to edit much, and I can actually just show up every week, because that is my purpose. That is my purpose with this channel, is to just kind of show up and just be there, you know? Be there, be present, and not need to be and do so much, because I feel like we live in a world that is that basically tells us that if you are not doing something, you don't exist. And I definitely want to counter that in my own life. And I just figured, why not, you know, start a channel and just start experimenting with that, you know, start experimenting with always knowing what you're doing, and just come on and freestyle a little bit. But of course, you know, that's hard to do, so I always have a backup plan. So today's backup plan is, before I get into the backup plan, I want to explain why I'm doing that in the morning. Is because my boyfriend is having night shifts, and whenever he's having night shifts, obviously they're hard for him, but they really fuck up my sleep. So I am a little bit scared that if I don't do it now, I'm gonna run out of energy during the day. So I just decided to come on now, and now he's still out. It's early morning, and I have the time, and I'm semi-functional right now. I don't think it's gonna get better than this. So we're doing this now. Plan B is that I've been thinking a lot about healing this week, and I've been in a lot of conversations with people, and one of the things that we were talking about is just in general kind of the healing process and coaching, and then all of these other ways of going about it. And yeah, and just in general, I went on a walk with Sandra, who might be watching this. Hi, Sandra. And we were talking about how what people generally tend to struggle with and how healing occurs. So it really made me think. It really made me think and kind of reflect and go back in my own history, and in kind of being in different groups and observing how people react and how people think about healing. And in general, one of my favorite groups is the Silva mind, what is it called? The Silva mind control? No, not, they don't call it mind control anymore because it sounded funny. I don't know. Anyways, the Silva method. We have a group in the UK, and our instructor, our leader, okay, I shouldn't call him leader because that makes it sound like a cult, but I do feel like he's a leader. He is exceptional, and I'm really hoping that sometime soon I can get him on the channel and interview him and like have a bit of a conversation with him. But basically, how do I explain this? How do I even explain this? Like, he is so deep. This person is so deep. He's just, everything that I know about healing, I've kind of learned from him. And he didn't really explain it to us, but that's kind of like my understanding that I've put together over the time that I've spent in that group. Nowadays, I most of the time can't really make it to the group anymore, but I still really love it, and I still really believe in the Silva method, and I do use it as often as I remember to use it. So basically the way that healing works is with intention and belief. So anything can be healing as long as you believe that it's going to work. So if you can't, and that's kind of also how manifestation works, or prayer. It's the same thing. Like, you pray to God because you believe that you cannot make it happen. So you're like, God, please make this happen. I'm weak and powerless. Like, I can't do this, which I still do. I still do. Most of the time in moments of desperation. But yeah. So when, for example, when you go to a healer, when you go to someone to remove your blocks, or, you know, like clear out your energy field or something like that, you go to them and you believe that they have such a strong connection to God, then they're almost as powerful as God. So you believe it's gonna work, and that's why it works. It's like the placebo effect, like, literally. And the sad thing is that until we believe that we can do it ourselves, and we realize that we are creating everything with our thoughts and beliefs, we will always put our power outside of ourselves onto someone else, someone or something else. For example, it can also be a magic ritual, which I've done too. I've actually, it's from a book that I really, really like. It's called, I think it's called Psycho Magic, but there's 2 versions of that book, so I'll need to find the exact version that I used. And one of the rituals that really stood out to me, it's a book of like many different kinds of rituals, and one of the rituals that stood out was one for I don't know if it was creative unblocking, or kind of if you can't focus. I think it was for like lack of focus, and it did work. So what I had to do, I mean, this was insane, and I've always kind of had a slight interest in magic, and I understood, after reading that book in particular, I understood that magic is there's nothing magic about magic. It's just action. It's really just doing and engaging and with action and getting out of your head. So in this particular ritual, I had to go to the place where I was born, like very, very close to my hospital, and then dig out 5 kilos of soil from the ground there. Then wherever I dug out that soil, I had to plant a new, I think it was a tree or a plant or something like that. I planted a tree, which I don't know what happened to it. I haven't been back yet. And then, yeah, right, then take that soil with you wherever you're gonna live after that, which for me was Dubai. So I went from Croatia to Dubai with like 5 kilos of soil in my luggage. And then once you get to the place where you're gonna live, you need to buy a spiral shaped cactus. No, sorry, spiral. Well, it should look like a spine. So you have to go out and, like, you know, hunt for this freaking cactus that's going to look like that. So that's quite a few actions already. And then you need to fast for 18 days. And for those 18 days, you take the soil and you spread it out on the ground. And then you kneel on the soil, and then you have a bucket of water in front of you, and you submerge your head in the water, I think 7 times in a row. So like, you submerge your head in the water until you can't breathe anymore. And then, like, in the moment of panic, then you, like, oh, you know, like, you kind of come out of it. And then that part is supposed to kind of, like, I mean, the fasting part is supposed to make you really, like, clear, right? Like, light and clear and grounded and centered. But then the kind of getting out of breath kind of you know, being confronted with life and death, right? So it's like, if you were gonna die now, like, what would you be doing with your life, right? So it's like, and the whole idea of this ritual was that if your parents when you were little didn't kind of give you enough attention, or yeah, I don't know why that part would have I mean, I guess they didn't, I don't know. But the idea is that if as a child you didn't really have focus and attention, then that kind of carries over into your adult life, and then by doing this ritual you kind of reclaim back your focus. And I really did this ritual for 18 days. My flatmate must have thought I was crazy. But I really, so the idea is that for 18 days you stick with something, and then you're kind of coming back to it every day, regardless of how hard it is or whatever, because you believe that it's going to work, right? And it's going to work if you do the work. So it worked. I did it for 18 days. And the funny thing was that at the end of the 18 days, the thought that I had in my mind was, this was so hard. This was so ridiculously stupid and hard that it just has to work. Like, I'm not gonna make this not work. Like, because otherwise all of my crazy effort is for nothing, right? Like, I will be really fucking stupid if this doesn't work. So then it works. And I think that's how all magic rituals function. And I think that's how everything functions in a way. I feel like everything has to do with like your investment. And for example, like the other thing where I was very, very desperate, back in Taiwan, story time number 2, back in Taiwan when I was really, really desperate, like I knew I wanted to leave. I knew I wanted to get divorced. I knew I was miserable. And I didn't know how. I just didn't know how. I felt so weak in my personal power that I was like, I have no idea how I'm gonna pull this off. Like, I was so scared because of everything that it implied. So if, you know, I was going to get divorced and leave and everything, that means like I will have to take full responsibility for my life. And I was there like in Taiwan in Asia, and I hadn't been in Europe or the West for like nearly 10 years, and I also felt like I hadn't really built up anything. Like, yeah, I went to Asia when I was 20, and I don't know, I just felt so scared. Like the thought of kind of going back to Europe and I don't know, like kind of starting out from scratch just was mortifying. And in Taiwan it was comfortable. Like, I had a really, really comfortable life. I had friends, I had a family, like everything was really nice in many ways, but at the same time it really wasn't working for me. And I knew that I had to change. I really, really had to. I felt this like inner pull that I had to just get out of these circumstances that were not nourishing and not supportive of the person that I wanted to become, and or the person that I was already in a way, but it just wasn't like yeah, my ex was just very, very critical, and the vibes were just getting worse and worse. And I was like, I need to get out of this. And for the longest time I kind of carried that knowing in myself, and I didn't really tell anyone because our kind of whole social circle was so I don't know how to explain it. Like I felt like I was going to be, you know, I didn't have anyone I could tell because he was somewhat prominent, and then like if I started telling anyone, it would just spread like wildfire. Like gossip would just get out before I could really resolve it, you know. So it was very isolating. And then slowly I started telling people, and I started kind of deciding that I was gonna do it. And then a friend of mine, I found this women's support group. I started going there, and I started kind of unloading it off my chest. And it started feeling so good. It started feeling so good to have a place where I could just go and tell people things and not worry about, because they were completely unrelated to my circle. Like, they didn't know anyone in my circle, so I could just say things and just not worry about who's going to say what to whom, and like how is gossip gonna get out, which just makes me think like that's probably how celebrities feel. Like, they can't tell anyone anything because they're kind of always scared that things are gonna spill. And so I was going to this women's support group for a while, and then like it was a women's mental health support group actually, and then I started really wondering. I was like, is there something wrong with me? Like, you know, do I have a condition? Do I need to get like what do they call it, diagnosis? Like, I've never been diagnosed with anything. Well, maybe I should go and check. And I went to check. Actually, I went to one of the psychiatrists that was recommended in the group. I don't know why the fuck anyone would recommend that guy. Oh my god. So I got to the clinic, and the guy gives me like a 10-minute questionnaire, and he was just asking such weird, vague ass questions that make no sense at all. And then after that, after he went through the questions, he was just like, well, what did he say? He said, oh yeah, you're a little bit anxious and you have insomnia, so I'm gonna give you sleeping pills. I never had insomnia. Like, I sleep like a baby. And I was like, this is not happening. Like, this is insane. And then I told my best friend at the time, and she just said like, oh my god, like, please don't go to these places. Like, I've been to so many of these, you know, psychiatrists and psychologists over the years because she's had her own trauma. And she just said, please don't do this, you know, like, go to the place that I've been. She was kind of very much into going to retreats and workshops and kind of alternative healing. And at the time I was just kind of very rational. Very rational. And I was very much into Zen Buddhism and maybe Vipassana, but like, I would only do free things. I would never, I just thought that it was kind of stupid to pay for things of that kind if it's there for free. And in Taiwan there's so much of the free stuff, and so I was kind of really put off by the idea of going there. But yeah, it just seemed, I was so desperate. I didn't know what else to do anymore. I was like, okay, well, Zen Buddhism isn't getting me out of the situation. Like, I have no idea what to do. And so she told me where to go, and she said it's gonna be expensive. It's gonna be like 20,000 NT, which at the time was just like almost, yeah, like a month's salary. And this was for only 3 hours of service. But the thing is, like, that example really taught me that when something is difficult, the actions that you have to take in order to make it happen, make it work. So, you know, like, just the fact that I had to go and claim that money and be like, I really need help. Like, I'm not doing well. I need this money to do this thing. To actually go to my ex and say that, because we had shared finances, and it was really, he was kind of making the decisions about like what is an okay expense and what is not an okay expense. And I was like, I'm gonna lose my fucking shit. Like, I need this. I was really getting to the end of my patience. I was like, I'm gonna explode sometime very soon. Like, the clock is ticking. So I went down to, it was like a 2-hour drive, and yeah, it was like, I'm there already. Whatever they're gonna do has to work. Like, it just felt like I put so much of my trust into these people, And I remember the main guy, he was a medical doctor who turned energy healer afterwards. And he just, in this one session with him, and he was the most expensive, he just looked at me and he was like, well, what can I do for you? And I was like, what? Like, you are asking me what you can do for me? Well, you're supposed to know. You're supposed to look at me and just know what to do. But it was such a simple session that I had with him, just, I don't know, like 40 minutes or an hour. And what he taught me, so I had 3 sessions. One was like a kind of counseling session where it was a different lady. She was kind of like more of an energy healer, and we just talked for an hour, and she asked me what's kind of like, what's my biggest problem, like what's going on. And I kind of gave her the story about my mom and the story about my husband, and I'm like, these people are oppressing me, you know, like complete victim mode. And I just felt so powerless. I just felt yeah, like just completely powerless. Like my own personal power was nowhere to be seen. And this guy, the doctor, he kind of just taught me. He was like, close your eyes and like feel into your center and like feel the field around you. And he was like, okay, imagine you have like an energy ball kind of between your hands, and then like imagine getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I don't know, it was like such a simple exercise, but it really shifted something in me. And then the other session that I had with the lady was, she would be kind of like doing energy healing on me, and then especially kind of tapping into my belly and like pressing into it, like really, I mean, it was so painful. She was kind of dissolving some blockages in my stomach area where I kept all of my suppressed emotions. And then she had me talk to my mother and my ex-husband and just say to them, like, you can't do this to me. Like, you can't do this to me. And after the session, like, obviously I felt better, but at the same time, like, I still had a little bit of doubt, like, oh, is this gonna work? And then they prescribed me to do like these meditation exercises, like moving meditation, kind of qigong style exercises every day. And I would just go out, ground, you know, like put my bare feet on the ground, on the soil, and just connect to nature and connect to myself every day. I think they prescribed it 3 times a day, and I'm way too lazy to do that, but I did do it for a good, at least 2 times, or at least like 1 time a day. And just kind of getting that grounding and like getting that connection with nature, and it just made me feel safe again. And then when I got back, I had the big final fight with my ex-husband, which took 8 hours of fighting. It was exhausting. Like when we got to 4 hours, he was a real hard nut to fight with. Like so fucking hard to fight with, because I mean, it was just irrational. Like he would just suck you into his story, and you just really challenging. But I just felt like, you know, I can't just like leave, right? Like I had to somehow sort it out, right? I need to get divorced. Like I need, you know, I can't just like take all my shit and leave, because I still need to get divorced. Like I need this guy to agree to certain things. And so we had this long fight, and somewhere I think I got to the limit again. Anyways, back to the story. So we had this long fight, and somewhere around the 4-hour mark, I just got really tired. And I remember sitting down, and like normally I would just give up at this point. I would be like, this is too exhausting. Like I had no energy in my body left to be fighting, because I've been fighting for 18 years with my mom. I was like so conflict avoiding. Like I could just not be pulled into a fight. And whenever it happened very rarely. Like it only happened like 2 or 3 times a year, like really, really rarely. But when it happened, I just had no energy in my body to fight. And so every time a fight would happen, like I would have, you know, certain things that I would be dissatisfied with, and I just could not argue my points because it wasn't being heard. It just wasn't being heard. Like everything always escalated into fight and just turned into like screaming, and nothing ever worked. So at some point, obviously, like I just gave up. I was like, okay, well, this isn't like, you know, if somebody doesn't care about, you know, what I think, then this is clearly the wrong place to be. So in the fight, somewhere around the 4-hour mark, I sat down. I remember like exactly like sitting down in this chair and just feeling like, wow, like I'm so tired. And then I remember that like personal power. Oh my God, I just realized that my whole framing is wrong. Okay. Sorry. I remember like the exercise that this doctor taught me, and I could just feel the energy pulling and coming back to me. And I could just feel it like my core, my inner source of energy, and I just, something just completely shifted, and I was like, and I was like, my power is back, like, and I went back into the fight. And I remember like when I came back with that energy, he had nothing on me. I just realized like nobody can take my power away from me. Like nobody, not even this person. And when I came back with that energy, he just looked at me and he realized it. He was like, wow, like there's nothing I can do anymore, you know, like you really decided. And I was like, yeah. And then he just started like crying, like just sobbing. But that also goes to show like everything is energy. Like everything is from the inside out. Like it's really, really incredible when that shift happens. And that shift was facilitated by another person. Like if I hadn't gone to that place, and if those people hadn't been available there for me in my most desperate moment, I have no idea what would have happened. I would have probably been a ghost by now. Like, not to say that I couldn't have done it myself. Like I could have, but I was quite in quite a bad place at that time, and very low on personal power, very, very low. Like and I mean, now I understand that it really is like I gave my power away. It's not like anybody came and like stole it from me. Like that's the illusion. That's the story that we tell ourselves. It's like, oh, like people did this to me and that, but like at every point, realistically, at every point, unless you are in like a highly, highly abusive, physically abusive relationship where you're like scared that someone's gonna kill you. And even Tina Turner, for example, like there's this wonderful movie about her life. Like even she had that same moment where she shifted. Like she went deep into her meditation practice. She was chanting every day, and she kind of regained her own personal power. And as soon as she made that inner shift, it just changed everything on the outside. It was like, you can't fuck with me anymore. And in the movie it shows it so clearly. She just looks at him and he notices that inner personal power in her, and he realizes she's just not scared of him anymore. And that's where it ends. It's like the external oppression ends as soon as you make that inner decision of like, hey, wait a second, like, no. So it all really starts from the inside. So it's an interesting thing, like healing. Back to the idea of healing. It's like someone from the outside can facilitate the healing, and ironically that makes you get your own power back. If the practitioner is good, obviously, like you don't want to be with someone who's just going to make you dependent on them, right? Like a good practitioner will always get you to realize your own power and the fact that you don't need anyone or anything. But it's just that when we're very desperate, we don't feel it. We don't see that. We don't see that like we're everything, right? Like everything is already in me. I am everything. So yeah, I guess that's the story for today. Short and sweet. Is there more things that I want to say about healing? I don't know. I think like next time I want to make a video about the emotion code. But I guess I'll leave that for next time then. I guess I'll keep it short and sweet in here. Yeah. A couple of thoughts on healing and how healing occurs. Yeah, healing is just believing in it. And sometimes, oh yeah, the other thing that I wanted to say about healing in this video is just that another thing that I really like to practice, because I do see the effects of it, is affirming things for people. And that also goes back into the idea of belief. So if I can have, so sometimes it's much easier, right? If like let's say I want something and I'm like, oh my god, but like I don't know if I can get it, like I don't know if it's gonna happen. And then like my friend, you know, from the outside looks at it and it's like, yeah, of course it's gonna happen, like you're gonna get it, it's gonna be fine. You believe that, right? Like that's so much easier to believe than you having to believe it yourself. So whenever there is an opportunity to do that for someone, I always do it. Like, because if I can look at that person and just hold that belief, and that's where the magic of kind of having someone else believe in you and see your dream and be like, yeah, this is gonna happen. Like, as outrageous as it can seem to you and as far away from your reality as it can seem to you, if you're kind of stuck in materialistic thinking, things are going to seem really far away from you. But the fact is that that's not how it works. Like things, once you kind of align with your purpose and align with your talents and gifts, things just naturally unfold. Like what you want wants you back. Like it's not only you wanting it and it's like far away from, far out of reach for you. It's not like that. It's like whatever you want it for a reason. Like it wants you back. It's like a kind of two-way pull. Like it's pulling you towards it as well. So whenever there's an opportunity and someone's like, oh, is it gonna happen? I'm like, yeah, of course. And just because I can believe it, I believe it's real. I believe it's gonna happen. And it doesn't even matter if that's how it works. But it's like, if you can have, let's say, 5 people in your life who do that for you, that kind of shapes your idea of reality, right? Like it kind of makes you feel like, oh wow, like yeah, like look, there's all these like 5 different people who think my dream is possible, so like it must be possible, like they can't be, you know, like crazy. So yeah, everything is belief. Everything is belief. And we always have to, like, that's my personal practice. I always try to remember that everything is belief, and I really try to check myself, like what am I thinking, what am I believing, what are the thoughts that I keep telling myself, like what's going on in my head. And if I see something negative, I always replace it. And I always kind of, it's like, what's that thing they say that God said, first there was the word and then it was spoken, or some shit like that. I just butchered that. Oh my god, my brain is fried. But you guys know what I mean. You know what I mean. Everything is spoken into existence, like whether it's internally or whether it's like through the voice, through the actual act of speaking, but that stuff works. And especially when you speak it out loud, and that's why affirmations work, is because you hear it. Like, it reverberates in your body, right? It's like all the vibrations kind of go through your body, and you can hear it, and then you're like, oh wait, what? Well, oh, if I can hear it, it must be true, right? So everything is neural wiring. Like, you're just wiring the connections together that you want to be there. And if everything that we're experiencing, like, we're always telling the story of I, right? This is my life, this is what happened to me, I'm like this because of everything that happened to me, and la 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 la, like, this is possible for me, this is not possible for me, this is what's gonna happen, this is not what's gonna happen. That's all a story, right? Like, so if we know that we're always telling a story, then why not just pick a story that we're really gonna like? Why not just pick a freaking epic story? If we understand that this is how our reality is formed, then we can just kind of step out of that picture for a second and really look at the questions that we can ask ourselves, you know, like, what is it that I really, really want? And my favorite question is, if someone gave you $2 billion, what would you do with the rest of your time on planet Earth? And that kind of really gets you thinking, you know, it really gets you dreaming and imagining. And because that's kind of like our number one limitation is money. We just think that everything depends on money, and if I don't have the money, then nothing is possible. But there are so many different ways that things can come about. You know, some connections, like, and that's the other thing that's really important, is to kind of to transcend yourself, to transcend thinking of yourself as only yourself. It's like, I'm not just me, I am me and everyone else. I am connected to everyone. So that means if I am everyone, then of course everyone should want my well-being, and I want everyone else's well-being, and we're all kind of just connected and flowing like a big endless ocean. Then that's what I've been practicing last year, especially when I went home for summer and I was just floating on the ocean and just really trying to feel into like how safe and taken care of I feel when I'm floating on the water. And I was just like, okay, meditate on this. Like, human beings are 80% water. Why don't I feel as safe and taken care of when I'm with other human beings, right? Especially strangers. Like, when we look at a stranger, we're like, oh, are they good? Are they not good? Are we similar? Are we not similar? Are we gonna vibe? Or we're not gonna vibe? Is this going anywhere? Is this not going anywhere? Like, what's the point? But technically, we really should be able to connect with everyone, and we should be really, really open. And I feel like I've definitely experienced this in my life, that when I'm really, really open and I'm not putting this person into a box, if you have like a kind of stereotype sort of thinking about this person, you're like, oh, they're like that, and you put limitations on what they are and who they are. They will only show you what you think they are. But if you're really, really open-minded, someone that you might perceive to be a particular way, if you're open, they're gonna surprise the shit out of you. Like, people surprise me all the fucking time. Like, you might think like, oh, well, this person, like, you know, I don't know, whatever, like, they're not gonna be able to help me in any way or anything like that, but we're all connected. So you never know where help can come from. So if you know your dream very clearly, if you're out on a mission and you're like, you're holding your roadmap and you know where you're going, help can come from every freaking where. So it's really pointless to go through life without having that map, without dreaming up, you know, a most fantastic end goal in a way. I mean, the end goal doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter so much, but having it just makes life more. It just makes life more of everything. It makes life more more alive. Yeah, I think that's what I've always kind of been after, is just living a very alive life. And it's so much more fun, right? So anyways, I think I'm gonna end it here. I'll do my usual. Thank you so much for watching, first of all. Thank you for watching me, my little sleepy self in the morning. Little sleepy morning story time. And if you would like to get a gifted coaching session with me, you can clink. You can clink the link below that leads you to my website, or just comment and tell me in here and I will arrange a session for you, which I love to do. So it's a gift for you and it's also a gift for me. So thank you so much, and I will see you again next week. Next week there might be footage from Gibraltar. Let's see. Okay, have a good day and enjoy your life. Okay, bye.